where the president had a Republican controlled House, yet we were kept in the dark of those negotiations. For 2 years, we had to struggle to try to find out what was in an agreement that had already been reached with Mexico, although not sent to the Senate. We wanted to find out whether or not this administration had agreed to include illegal immigrants from Mexico in our Social Security system. Sounds like a pretty important issue to me. But we were intentionally kept in the dark by this administration. That's unacceptable. Today, we are involved in negotiation with the government of Iraq about a possible long-term commitment by the United States, and we're being kept in the dark about what that commitment might or might not be, or what it should be. It's totally unacceptable. Well, after months of congressional and public pressure, this administration has recently shed some light on the Declaration of Principles Bilateral Security Agreement, as it's called. 2 days ago, Secretary Gates appeared before the Senate Armed Services Committee and said there will not be a long-term agreement that commits the United States to defend Iraq without a vote of Congress. Well, perhaps if U.S. policy will include a vote of Congress, perhaps the administration should be discussing with Congress what is in the agreement to ensure that an agreement is possible. Yesterday, we were offered a secret briefing on this issue. I did not attend that secret briefing, as you did not as well. No, secret briefings don't make it in a free society. Yes, there may be some elements to what's going on that need to be said in secrecy, and we have no problem with that. But obviously, there are very significant elements to the negotiations that are going on that do not need to be secret and should instead be part of a public discussion. And we are offered secret briefings. Clearly, the administration may be trying to do the right thing, and I will grant this administration, my president, that it may well be trying to do the right thing. But the cloak of secrecy regarding these discussions and this basically approach that the president's been taking has been undermining the potential success that he would have in implementing that policy, if indeed Secretary Gates is right that it would need a vote of Congress. And I certainly believe that any long-term commitment by the United States of America to defend anyone would in some way require an agreement by Congress. So let us hope that from this moment until the president leaves the presidency, that this administration will do a better job of consulting Congress. But don't hold your breath. Today we will hear from expert private sector witnesses who will discuss the prospect of this agreement. I look forward to hearing what they have to tell us. And this is an issue that obviously is of great significance to the people of the United States of America, and they deserve an open discussion. I try my very best to go to Los Alamitos Air Station and Reserve Center every time that one of the local National Guard or reserve units from our area takes off or returns from Iraq or Afghanistan. Let me note I'm usually the only congressman there in an area where we have about 20 members of Congress within a drive. And these folks are heroic people. They go there, you know, most of them are the guys who used to drive the UPS truck, or somebody who worked down the street at the drugstore, or some young lady who was the clerk at the 7-Eleven. And their reserves are National Guards who are out there now, our neighbors and our friends who are out putting their lives on the line for us. But it's not just, and what is us? You know, they recognize us, U.S., us. It's all of us. The United States of America is us. And the Constitution of the United States of America is what brings us together, and those guarantees of not only personal freedom, but the balance of power that our founding fathers established to ensure that freedom. These issues and the important issues of the day demand open discussion. And this administration is not giving us that open discussion, and I believe in doing so is letting down those brave people who are defending our country. So with that said, thank you very much. I'm looking forward to this hearing.
Mr. Rohrabacher, let me thank you for a very eloquent statement, and one that I'm proud to associate myself with. Let me ask my colleagues to the left if they wish to make some very brief comments. I see Mr. Berman in the negative. Mr. Laurel.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, and let me say thank you to you, Mr. Rohrabacher and Mr. Berman, for allowing me to testify this morning at this hearing. As I explained, I do not sit on the Foreign Affairs Committee, but have an interest in this area with legislation. I also believe that mapping out our future relationship with Iraq is vital to our national interest in the region. And as has been expressed, we have good reason to be concerned. In June, Defense Secretary Gates said we would have a, quote, long and enduring presence in Iraq, borrowing from the Korea model and the security relationship that we have with Japan. Then in November, we note that President Bush and Prime Minister Al-Maliki agreed to the Declaration of Principles for a long-term U.S.-Iraq relationship to be finalized by July 31st. I, too, am concerned about the security commitments and assurances that our nation plans on providing according to this declaration. And if you, as has been described as well, when you take a look at, quote, defending Iraq's democratic system against internal, external threats, what are these undefined threats? Would we be obliged to preemptively strike Sunni fighters beyond Iraq's borders, or even strike homegrown armed factions Maliki's own government deems to be a threat? This week, Defense Secretary Gates indicated that the agreement, quote, will not contain a commitment to defend Iraq, yet I remain concerned that such a commitment is nevertheless included in a written document signed by two heads of state. This begs the question. Do Secretary Gates' comments indicate that the President will abrogate the Declaration of Principles? Either way, it's clear that any agreement with Iraq would likely authorize our forces to engage in combat. Currently, U.S. forces in Iraq are operating under the UN mandate. Should the mandate end, as proposed in the Declaration of Principles, I believe any continued authority for U.S. forces to engage in combat in Iraq should be approved by legislatures in both Iraq and the United States. I am interested to hear what our witnesses have to say about past UN resolutions on Iraq, the current UN mandate, and Congress's role as we transition into a new security arrangement. Secretary Gates also testified that the administration will not, quote, seek permanent bases in Iraq, contradicting an earlier statement from Assistant to the President and Deputy National Security Advisor for Iraq and Afghanistan, Lieutenant General Douglas Lute, who called permanent bases, quote, a key item for negotiation. Despite Secretary Gates' comments, the President actually made matters worse by issuing a signing statement, along with the 2008 National Defense Authorization Act, declaring that he had the power to bypass a provision in the bill barring the establishment of, quote, any military installation or base for the purpose of providing for the permanent stationing of United States Armed Forces in Iraq, end quote. I'd be interested in hearing our witnesses' professional and legal opinions on the executive's authority to issue such statements